other. You feel like you're talking to a brick wall. You're talking to your spouse, but it's going in one ear and out the other. They ain't hearing you. All right, wait, they hear you, but are they listening? That's the question. So we're going to have the A team kick it off to us with the first question in the first portion of this video.
Okay, hey guys. So the first thing that we thought was a good place to start off with, and the question we pose to ourselves, because we don't just like get on here and just spit game. Like, we pose questions to ourselves that we actually think about and think about it internally with each other. So the first question is, having empathy for your spouse, what does that look like? So Prothos, Skinners, whoever want to kick it off, what does having empathy for one another look like in y'all relationship?
So I would just start by saying, I think that empathy is a word that a lot of people use, but empathy and like sympathy, for example, are two total different things. So if I have empathy for you, like, I'm literally trying to put myself in your shoes and trying to visualize how you feel in a situation. If I have sympathy for you, it's just like, oh man, that sucks. That's really sad. That's really bad. Like, I feel for that situation, but I'm not necessarily putting myself in your shoes. So I really feel that in order to have like empathy for your spouse, you also have to be, or should be, in tune with your spouse too. What their wants, what their needs are, and understanding where they're coming from. I think it also puts a different kind of perspective on things too. And I think, like, an example of that could be like a spouse losing a loved one, for example. That may not be your, parents or your sister or your brother or what have you, but you can still put yourself in their shoes and kind of visualize and understand their pain and where it's coming from. I really think that's something that's necessary in a relationship, because if you don't have empathy for your spouse, in a way, you're only going to be worried about like your needs, and your wants, even though your spouse may be on another level because of something that they're dealing with, and you can't even see that. So that to me is like really, really, really important. How do you really connect to your spouse? How can you say you love someone really if you aren't even able to empathize with that person?
That is such a good point when you brought up, like losing loved ones and things of that nature. When you're with someone for years and years and years, traumatic experiences are going to happen. Things that make you devastated are going to happen. And I'll be honest, like, I really haven't lost that many people super close to me until just here recently. But Terry his family has dealt with a lot of death. And being like, so for an example, I've only may have known the people, the family members who died maybe between 5 and 8 years. And so I'm not as close, but being able to see how he responds to someone dying. So for an example, our cousin Lamar, rest in peace, Lamar. I don't want to get emotional, but he was also in our wedding, and that was like Terry's brother. They grew up together from the jump, right? And so that was his boy. That was the person that he really looked up to, and he tragically died the week before we gave birth to Trey, and that was also the week before his birthday. And I was 9 months pregnant, ready to pop out this baby, and my husband has lost one of his closest relatives. And so if I couldn't be so focused on me just trying to get this baby out and not be there for my husband, I wonder how detrimental that would have been to our relationship. You know what I'm saying? And so empathy is one of those things that you really need when you want to show up for your relationship. You know what I'm saying? You show up daily, but in those moments you show up on another level. You know what I'm saying? It was late in the midnight hour. We was at the hospital pretty much all night. And I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. My mom is here. But I'm like, no, my husband needs me right here. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't care about going to the hospital and all other stuff, because I knew what internally my husband was dealing with, but then also outwardly too, because my husband's not a crier. But, when he's like really jacked up to his core, he does cry. And so me being there for him, I feel like, I want you to share too how you felt about it, but I felt like that was a time for us to really get closer as well. and me to really support him and be that backbone that he needed. Because our Black men, they got to be strong all the doggone time. And if we can't have empathy for them in their household or in their relationship, how much more of a burden is that relationship to them? They need to have a safe place, a place that they can be vulnerable. And if they can't be that with their significant other, where can they have that outlet? And so I think that's just really important. But I don't know, from your perspective, what do you think?
Yeah, I believe that empathy is really important too, because like she said, like if she wasn't there, I probably would have went somewhere else with it, but she was there to keep me calm and comfort me. And I also believe like compassion is something that deals with it too when you actually dealing with that. So yeah, I believe like stuff like that, like she said, like I'm not a crier for real, or I really don't have my emotion on my sleeve unless it's something that really deeply bothering me. But she knows when it's bothering me, and she has the empathy to deal with it when it happens.
No, that's solid. I think, and I think that carries over into every aspect, from loss to even experiences that, that two people may face in a relationship. One person may be trying to get over something that happened, as big or as small as it may be. We can use taking out the trash, like, yo, you didn't take the trash out. And you could be like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, dang, it's just trash. And that's about to be the foundation of a very messed up situation. Like, you're going to have to you need to empathize how that person felt, because to you, it's just the trash, right, or it's just the dishes, or it's just ... But to them, it's so much more. Yeah. And so I think that empathy, just across the board, and compassion, because even in that scenario, you can still use compassion. Like, you know what, how does that make you feel? And they can tell you, like, you know what, it's not even about the trash. It's about you being honest about your word. You said you were going to do it. So you should have followed through. So, you'll be able to get through a lot when you choose to. And I think empathy is correlated with humility, in my opinion. I think the true people who are good at showing compassion and empathizing, they're good at humbling themselves and allowing communication to be both ways and not just talk at, so that's my take on it.
Do you think that it's I'm just speaking off the top of my head, but is that something that grows with time? Like it continues to get better? Like, how can you tell from the jump, like when you first get in a relationship, that this person is going to have that empathy or even compassion? Because a lot of times in new relationships, it's just like new lust. It's new. It's a lot of like new, and you don't really know if people going to really be there for you during a tough patch. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you really tell? Like, is it a time frame with that?
I think that takes time. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, like, so empathy in general is something that they start teaching kids. And I don't have kids, but just from learning, like a characteristic, they start them and showing them like young, like maybe kindergarten, first grade, like teaching them empathy. But I think empathy for an adult, like it should progress as you get older. And then even when you get in a relationship or just have relationships with friends, I think that's another thing, like dynamic, having to learn them and learn what they need support in. Because I think support is another word that kind of goes with empathy, knowing what that person needs to be held up, for parts or times where they are, in a weakened state, or just knowing what they like. I think it's a learning process, bro. In every relationship, I think it should progress. But I do think that empathy is something that we should all start off with before we get in a relationship.
Rebecca, did you want to go before me? I didn't know if you...
You got it. You got it.
Cool. Tom, let me say, that was a fire question. Like, that could low-key be a topic. So, I mean, and I'm sure everybody's going to pick away certain parts, but there's a part in that question that he said, how can you tell if a person has empathy before a relationship? I think that's what he said. That's a fire observation. So I'll speak on that part. And I think that's super important. So I think infatuation is something that, like you said, we all have lust and all those things. I think infatuation is like the downhill part where it's just easy to kind of like fall in love or fall in whatever. But then I think true love happens after you finish falling into it, and now you got to really build it and you got to grow up, right? So like with that analogy, so to speak. So I think that that's really where you find out if a person is, come on, swing your hair. Sorry, y'all. This new hair. This new hair.
I'm getting used to
did
it.
something
Y'all
to
know
me
I stay
just now.
bald.
Sorry, did something to me just now. So I think that you can observe and tell if a person is empathetic right after that infatuation stage, when the conversations are not always sweet and lovey-dovey and stuff like that. And I really think that that's where you need to realize, or that's where you should make a decision, because this person is showing you who they are. If they dismiss everything you're talking about, that person is telling you what they think about your opinion. And so it's for you to make the best decision for you. And this, I really hope my single folks that follow TMP, I really hope y'all listening to what we're saying. If a person is not choosing to be empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate, supportive early on, that is a telltale. Because when the tough really get going, or the going really get tough, or whatever it is, hey, that's when somebody got to shut up and be the bigger person. And if y'all always doing like this because y'all refuse to do that, you're gonna have a unique relationship.
Yeah.
And you know what? Oh, go ahead, sis.
No, you go ahead, because you were after Chris.
I feel like I'm talking too much, so I can wrap us at the end. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say that my husband, I really don't know, honestly, if you can tell if someone has empathy from the jump. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that goes back to childhood and how they were raised. So you really can't really tell, if that person will have empathy off bat. I do think it is something that grows, though. So even if I'm in the stage where, let's say I don't have empathy, okay? Like none at all. We get into a relationship and something tragic happens to you, but it's later on down the line, right? So I already have feelings for you. So my empathy has started to grow. And really empathy can be something as practical as, how would I respond in this situation? How would I want somebody to respond to me? If I were in this kind of situation, and what would I want? Mm-hmm. Is that practical? But if that person isn't like thinking like that, and how you feel and your feelings, like Chris said, I mean, at that point you need to make a decision. Is this someone that you want to build with, right? Is this someone that you want to be in a relationship with? But it's really hard to tell. I mean, if they will, in the beginning. But if we're already at that stage where I'm developing feelings and I'm like, wow, I really like this dude, or wow, I really love this dude, then in my mind, and I could be wrong, but in my mind, that love or those feelings will kind of push me toward having that empathy for you. Because at that point, because I have feelings for you, I'm thinking about, what can I do for you? Because at that point, we 8 years in the game, but we have been, going through some things too. And remember, I sent you that text, how can I help you? Because even with me having like what I believe to be empathy, I had no idea, no clue what you were feeling. And I couldn't even visualize, if I were in his shoes, what would I want? I drew a blank. I couldn't think of anything. So because I had nothing, I just let you know, what do you want from me? Mm-hmm. What can I do for you? How can I help you? Because I'm lost at this point. I don't even know what to say. And that's the first for me. Go ahead, Chris.
And Kanisha, I think you made a good point here at the end when you were talking about, when you don't know what to do, ask. What do you need from me? Terry has been really good at that recently, of like, how can I help you in this moment? You know what I mean? I think that's really great. But the other part was just, I wanted to push back a little bit, because honestly, I feel empathy is a personal character trait. I don't even think that it comes out in your relationships, right? However, I feel as though that work is personal work. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the relationship. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm a person that really doesn't have empathy in general, I will still struggle even in a relationship to have empathy, right? If I'm a person who is able to have empathy even for friends or just people on the street, I'm much more apt to be able to apply that into a relationship. And so that's why I feel like that is more so of a personal trait. What you got, Chris?
So, I think y'all see me like hopscotch. Like, can I get it? I think that all four of y'all kind of are onto something. If a person, but I disagree with something somewhere. I think, Kanisha, you might be able to help me out with it. But if a person lacks the ability to transfer empathy in any relationship, is it safe to say they don't need to be in a relationship? Because
Yes.
because my thing is like, if I lack empathy or don't have it, which is that's trauma. I think everybody can chalk it up. That's not you not learning lessons. You just are cold, right? And that's not a knock on whoever you may be, because I'm unempathetic in certain scenarios. It's like I got a block over here, so I'll stop talking. And I mean, maybe we want to speak to that part, because if a person's not showing empathy, they probably don't need to be in a relationship at that time.
Correct. But one thing I will say about that is that you are correct. If someone has the inability to show empathy, in my mind, like maybe that's a sociopath or whatever, you know, but if they have the inability to show empathy, yes, they should not be in a relationship. But you have to remember, bro, some people are drawn to that. I hate to say it. But some people are just drawn to relationships where they're getting nothing out of it. Like some people are drawn to like, oh, I can change him or her, or you know what, that's okay. That's not no big deal. I just want to be loved. Some people are drawn to that. As crazy as it sounds, people will still put on that role or whatever and be that helpmate or helpmeet or whatever for that person, and they're getting nowhere, and they still stay.
I think we
for
should
years and years and years. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but
I think we should give some encouragement to that type of person. And I won't be the one to, you know, y'all know I'll talk forever, but I think somebody should kind of like encourage to the person who's constantly attracting people that they're trying to fix, and they keep ending up empty at the end of that relationship. So anybody want to kind of volunteer and speak to that person, male or female?
I'll go last.
I think I would just encourage you to be reflective on yourself. Do some self-personal work. I would encourage you, you know, when you're a kid, you're excited for the shiny new object. And sometimes people equate that to a relationship. However, you know, you've got to figure out you first. And I would encourage you to do that. And I would encourage you to do the work that you need to do. And sometimes it's tough work, it's hard work, but it's good work, it's great work, because once you get yourself together, honestly, you'll be so much the better for your future significant other. And so that's just what I would say.
And that's like the best time to be as selfish as you possibly can at that time. And really learning who you are. Some people can't identify who they are because they've been in a relationship all their life. And it's like, who am I? You know what I mean? When you turn 25 and you like, dang, I've been in relationships since I was 14, now I'm 25, I'm single. What do I do? And it's like, this is the time where you should be knowing who you're becoming in your mid-20s going into your 30s. Like, but a lot of people are having crisis at that time. So that's a very, very critical thing.
Anybody else? Okay. So what I
go, you got it, girl.
Don't be long-winded like me. Look at me talking.
I will say exactly what my sister said. You definitely need to, of course, do that personal work, right? And defining who you are. But if nobody has ever said you are valuable, you are worthy, it doesn't matter if nobody else is saying, or even if you don't feel it, you are worthy of love. Getting to know who you are really, really broadens that self-worth. And in my opinion, that's when you become the best you to give to someone else. When you know who you are, you don't allow other people to say things about you and you believe it, none of that, because you are secure and set in who you are. And of course that changes, you know, over time as you mature, but that's growing, you know, upward growth, right? That's the type of growth that we want. But one thing I will also say, and we've mentioned this before, Michael Todd, he's a pastor in Oklahoma. His relationship goals book is on point. Whether you are single, in a relationship, don't know what you want to do just yet, his book is amazing. But I do believe that sometimes, and we mentioned this before, trauma, right? So if someone has the inability to show that empathy, or if they just feel like, you know, I don't know what's going on, I don't know who I am, it could be compounded by trauma. We really don't know, especially if that person is constantly, for some reason, drawn to or finding themselves in relationships where they're trying to fix somebody. That could be impacted because of trauma. And sometimes they don't even realize they've been through trauma until they're able to actually sit down and unpack what's really been going on. Then that's when that light bulb goes off, like, okay, so that's why I act like that? Or that's why I think like that? There's also another book, I believe it's called Building Resilience by Jocelyn Douglas. This girl has been through everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. From CPS to sexual abuse, physical abuse, baby daddy drama, all types of stuff. And she still overcame. Like, she has her master's in social work right now. She's getting her PhD. So it's like, sky is the limit, right? It doesn't matter what you've been through, but you got to believe it first. Nobody can believe it more than you. It has to come from you first. Yeah. And then that's when the personal work starts. And if a relationship finds you, it does. But at the end of the day, you really want to be the best you anyway, you know, once you do get into that relationship, and that comes from doing that work.
Yeah. I totally feel like I totally feel like that was just a powerful moment and a powerful discussion and comment. I don't know, I just feel in my spirit that somebody needed that. And so honestly, I feel in my spirit right now, whoever needed that, I would encourage you to pause this video and meditate on that first before you continue on. But I do feel that in my spirit, that directly, whoever's watching this and you're watching it now, I'm talking to you. That was for you. Okay? Don't sit here and play it. That part was for you. And so please pause this video and deal with that, because I do feel that in my spirit that somebody needed that specific word. You don't necessarily need the rest of this video, but you needed what we just said. Okay, so whoever that is, I don't know who you are, but somebody who's watching, you needed that specific thing. You don't need the rest of this video. You need that specific thing. All right. Now.
All right.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears just a little bit. We're still talking about being tone deaf to our spouse, but the next thing is being in denial on what's really going on. So when you are having surface level conversations, you don't want to deal with the tough stuff, because the question is this question or this statement gonna start an argument? Yeah. And there's a podcast that's called Is This Gonna Start an Argument that I actually watch, and it's some in-depth and it's deep stuff that's going on. But we tend, in relationships, we want to keep it peaceful and we want to keep it amicable, and so we sweep stuff under the rug and choose not to deal with it, but it compounds into something really huge. So I want to hear from TMP, the rest of TMP. What do you all think about having that surface level conversations? You really don't want to go into the deep end because you're afraid of what will really come out of that conversation.
Yeah, so for me, and I don't know if Chris want to add, but I'm going to speak just just in a relationship, like with friends. Like, I've been guilty of doing that, but I think that conflict, it comes with the territory in any type of relationship. And not necessarily fight or an argument, but just conflict, just having a difference of opinion or wanting different things or having different paths. I think that people want to always be agreeable with everything, and that is not the case. Every single person on this earth has a different personality, different wants, different goals, different paths. So everything is not going to be hunky-dory. Everything isn't going to be I agree with everything you say. So I think we need to get past the whole visual that everybody will have like this perfect relationship, perfect friendship where nothing is disagreed about. That's just false. And right now, kind of like for the past year, I've been on this wave that what is for you in your relationship is going to be different than what you see on media, because media just portrays like this monster and this beast like a reality that just isn't. And I think we have been caught up so much on what we see on social media or what we see other people do, and we don't even know the background. We don't even know what has gone into that friendship or relationship. So I just want to challenge, all of our viewers and just ourselves to just, I guess, view your relationship for what it is. Don't be afraid to have those tough conversations because you see everybody else being picture perfect, or you see the image looking like this type of thing. It's okay to have conflict. It's okay to have a disagreement, and it's okay to have those tough conversations, because that's really when change is gonna come.
Hey, when I'm guilty of that. Like in the beginning of our marriage, man, I always tried my best to avoid conflict because I grew up in a household with my dad and my mom and 3 sisters, and I've never seen him win those battles. So it was like, let me pick my battles. You know what I mean? But I think now.
Oh, shoot.
I think
Is he big like you, Tony?
Yeah, I'm just watching. You know what I mean? I'm just watching, sitting back, watching. But I feel like
all them muscles that can't do nothing. Like he just, hey man.
Hey, happy wife, happy life.
Touche.
So, but I think now I have gotten better with it because even if it's something that I might not want to touch on at that time, because I can feel our energy, you know, because we in tune with one another, I can feel our energy, and if it elevates, then we can come back to it the very next day. You know what I mean? So I think that's what works for us specifically, because like I said, in the beginning of our marriage, it was like, okay. And like you said, I let stuff compound. And if we ever did get into a situation, then it's like, you know, this, and that. And it's like,
it's compounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a receipt.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Visuals.
so look, this is the way I see it. Surface level conversations are easier. They're just easier. You know, you mad? Yep, I'm upset. Yep, talk to you tomorrow. I'm not. All right, okay. You know, so it's kind of just, it lets us, you know, tomorrow will be better. I think there's some cultural, okay?
Yeah.
There's some cultural layers to that. We're always it's all right, you know, it's good, it'll be all right, you know, maybe tomorrow will be a little better. It's okay, it'll get better. We tend to typically be optimistic, even though what we're dealing with is some crap, some hot mess. So what I will say is that having those nitty-gritty conversations, getting to the root of what's really going on, is not pretty.
No.
It's not pretty. It don't matter how much you love that person. It's ugly, it's nasty, but I think you got to remember, number one, and we've said this all before, we on the same team. Number one, let's start there. Number two, what is your end goal? Because if we keep having these surface level conversations, this ain't gonna last. So are we in it for the long haul, or we just want it to look cute for everybody else? Because if we in it for the long haul, I don't care if you mad at me or not, we gonna have these conversations. It's the nails.
Man, you see why, fellas?
Yeah.
Be careful on how you do it.
Don't do it when I'm mad. That's all. If I'm not mad, we can talk. But if I'm angry, and that's not okay. But I'm just saying,
Just
you want
sit
to keep
back.
your emotions low.
Just sit
while
back,
you have the
listen.
conversation.
Make sure you listening, so when you talk about it later, you show that you listen and you had empathy and sympathy and compassion.
Yes.
And if she still want to get to that level, then it's like, wait, babe, you too loud. Like, calm down.
You're not then it's like, you're not supporting me. I'm trying to.
Thank you.
Look, we text. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I'm just being honest. We text. If it's a difficult conversation, I think we've said that before, we don't talk about it right away.
Well,
just being real. We text. But
text.
now, Mr. Communication over here, he popped through the door. All right, what you saying? Earlier, what were you talking about? Well, give me a second. You just walked through the door.
It's the testosterone.
So for us, it's easier for us to ease into that conversation through text. Okay, that may not be ideal for everybody, but that's how we do it. And I mean,
I think
it's been working.
I think there was another. I feel like this is like a great one for the singles. I feel like that was another amazing singles nugget right there, when the Protos were saying, what are you in it for? I think even Arian mentioned it. What are you in it for? Are we trying to create something that has longevity, or is this a phase? If it's a phase, my day was great. Thanks for asking. How was yours? And if it's but if we trying to create, everybody been saying this lately. I've been hearing a lot. We trying to create a dynasty. Okay, well, you're gonna have to go through the conflict of it. So that was another good nugget. Rebecca, do y'all want to go? Terry,
Yeah, Terry's gonna say something. I'll say something.
Yeah, I agree with y'all too. Like I was the type of person I don't like conflict either, and I definitely don't like arguing. And then sometimes I don't like losing the argument either. So when it comes to it, it's like with men, you also gotta pick your battles as far as being the bigger person and knowing how to divide that. Because sometimes when you being the bigger person, you quitting on that conversation that's gonna elevate our relationship. So sometimes I'll be like, and early in a relationship, I'll be like, you know what, I'm tired of arguing. I'll just be like, yeah, you right. I agree with it. Instead of actually going there to get my side of the point so we could come to a mutual agreement that's gonna take us to a better place in our relationship.
Yeah.
Both of y'all.
Low-key, that turns me on. I like it.
She married. Why that awkward?
You got time.
While I was talking. No, but for real, okay? I appreciate that because it lets me know. It's like you uncovering another layer of who you are, right? And I appreciate that because, like you said, we're so much the better for it. I'll give you a prime example. I love to talk. I like talking. I like having conversations. If anybody knows me, you know I'm a people person and I like to talk, right? And my husband is not a people person and don't really like to talk. And so at the beginning of our relationship, that used to make me so mad.
I'm a people person, but I'm like a genuine.
Like, wait a minute.
I gotta get a feel for you first. Like, I ain't gonna force myself on you.
Right. That's true. That's true. So when you are when you with him, when he's down with you, he's really down with you, if that makes sense. But as far as like, so at the beginning of a relationship, I'm like, so let's talk. And then he'll be like, okay, what do you want to talk about? Or I'll be like, say something good. He'll be like, I love you.
What's better than that?
What else do you want?
Hey, by the way, he still do that. And then, but now I'm like, but don't say I love you. But that's all that matters, right? No, but I used to like really struggle because I feel like he wouldn't like be vulnerable with me. And I'm like, let's actually talk about something. And he's like, okay, so what do you want to talk about? It needs to be a hot mess. But I will say, honestly, TMP has helped us. TMP has helped us with our communication and really being open about conversations that might be difficult. So I just want to say, for those of you watching, look, this stuff be for us too. Let's be quite clear. Nobody has arrived on this panel, all right? This has been just, honestly, it's been life-changing for our relationship. I feel like we have grown leaps and bounds this past year. And it's because of the openness that we have been able to experience and the transparency we've been able to experience with our friends and really sharing with one another. But I do want to say this, and I'm so mad it's not coming to my mind. Dang on it, and I don't want to take up too much time. But I do know that my sis got something that she wants to say. I do know that. But I also want to say, as far as the service or having a deep conversation, Terry said something that was just really just hit the nail on the head, is that you grow from that conversation. You know what I'm saying? It may suck going through it. We've been in conversations, we be up till 3:00 in the morning having this conversation, but it brought me to an understanding of where he's coming from and me to understand it. And so I want to encourage our men out there, stand your ground.
Yeah.
Stand your ground in the relationship, and not in a super masculine way, but saying that you have feelings, your feelings matter, and your voice is valued in the relationship. And sometimes I think us as women, we struggle in that area as far as, once again, allowing our significant others to be vulnerable in front of us. So sometimes for my single people out there, specifically my single ladies, you be wanting a man's man. I don't know if anybody else watches Married at First Sight, but Homegirl really irks my nerves. I can't remember her name. She's with Miles. I think it's Karen. Karen, you really irk my nerves every now and again because you want a manly man. Because you want a manly man. You want to be you want a masculine man. However, you have a man that is actually extremely mature with his emotions and understanding his feelings and being able to share that. And when you get into it for the long haul, you will value that because that is something that not every man has. And so I just want to encourage the singles out there, allow your husband to be vulnerable, allow your boyfriend or significant other to be vulnerable with you, because that is something that you, in the long haul, that is something that will keep you all in moving forward. I just want to share that. I talk way too much. See, I like to talk. Sorry.
So one thing I also wanted to say before we hop into the next subject, because I know we're coming up on time, I believe that also going deeper in those conversations, I'm sorry if you hear my daughter in the background, those conversations also mean I'm sorry, I was wrong, I messed up. Even though a lot of times we don't really want to, what you got this mark on your face from?
I'm laughing at Leah.
Oh, so sometimes you gotta say that too. Like, I'm
way to choose your battle, bro. I'm really learning.
I hate saying I'm wrong, okay, but a lot of times I do. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I apologize. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said this. I assumed this. I shouldn't have did that. That wasn't cool. I do believe that's also going deeper too, because I think when we're talking about surface level, sometimes even, and my brother Terry said it, like sometimes even if you are right, it's like, you know what? You got it. I don't even want to go deeper into it. You're right. It's okay. No big deal. But I think also it also means saying sorry and realizing, yeah, you kind of messed up, you know, in this kind of situation. So that kind of also like brings me to our next point and our last point, but we kind of talked about this already in terms of knowing yourself, knowing how to love yourself, knowing what you want from your spouse. What do you guys think? Like, how much does that play into it? Me knowing who I am, me loving myself, how much does that play into me knowing what I want from my spouse in a relationship?
A lot. It plays into it a lot. Next. No. And we're done. Thanks, God. No.
I just paid for the gas.
It definitely. You said what?
I just paid for the gas.
Don't marry him.
So it matters a lot because I think how Tony and Terry were saying they don't like confrontation. I don't really care about confrontation. But when I don't want it, I notice that I have this pattern. When I don't want it, for the most part I can see it coming down the road with Aaron, and I'll be like, yo, we're creating an environment and we're about to argue. And I don't want to argue. So then at that point, she hot and ready. She like, nah, like I'm ready. Like, let's go. And I'm like, yo, I'm not trying to get that out of you. I was just making like a statement, but I'm not trying to go there. So then it'll turn into, okay, so now she wants to vent. So what I should do is probably create a space to let her talk. Yes. But sometimes what I do is get in my phone and then I just flip through. And what I'm trying to do is not hear what she really got to say, because then I'm going to want to talk. But I just said that we were about to argue if you keep going. So it's like, you got to know yourself. I ain't going to sit here and a lot of y'all, Terry, kudos to y'all. Maybe your name got to start with a T, but I just don't know how to pick my battles. Like, I keep, because even her dad, Tony, like all these T's, like I'm not there yet. I really try my best to like pick them, but it's like they just be like, "Pooh." I'm like, "Oh, look."
Yep.
My battle.
Well, here it is. Oh, it's two of them
here now, right?
We're here. So, you know, that's some transparency for you, but you know.
And so I agree. I think so. I don't know. I think Chris has a hard time picking his battles, but I think that I think that goes back to empathy. You know what I mean? Seeing things from your point of view. But as far as like the topic in love, I was kind of staring into space because I was thinking like people really don't know what love is. And I was thinking of a term, you know, a biblical term that people use, but it really is the Greek word for love, which is agape. people don't know how to really embody agape love. And that's love, unconditional love. That's the love that God supposed to give and does give to us. So I don't know if us as humans, you know what I mean, especially if we aren't mature, if we really know how to embody that. You know, we talked about love languages before, you know, gifts, time, that's a language, and that is an action that shows love, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone has unconditional love. And I think that if someone doesn't have unconditional love, it's easy not to be empathetic, or it's easy to I don't think you do a bad job, babe, but I think it is easy to, you know, pick fights over petty, you know, petty arguments and stuff that really don't matter. But I think knowing yourself and loving yourself, that's 1A. And then when you get to 1B, that's knowing and being able to show love to like your significant other or spouse. Because I don't think if you can show yourself unconditional love, that you can yourself unconditional love, you can show your spouse or your significant other unconditional love. So I think that's what we really need to start thinking of. How can we love someone without any type of boundaries or any type of stipulations, you know, not attached to anything, but just truly and genuinely love yourself and others just for who they are.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, we're Christians, and not everybody else that may be watching are Christian, but as far as the principle of loving thy neighbor as thyself, you know, that is straight up. If you literally cannot love anyone else if you don't love yourself first. That's the piece. And I just keep, honestly, this whole conversation, I've been thinking about my sister. Shout out to my sister Stephanie.
Big supporter. Hi, Steph.
Right.
Hey, Steph.
Hey,
she is in a relationship now, but just watching her journey to discovering who she is first, and just how she has blossomed because she took the time to deal with her first, right? So she desires to have a family and all of that good stuff, but she recognized that it was important that she focused on herself and got to know herself. And then she wasn't searching, but then this wonderful person came into her life, and I really, really like him. Just so you know, I'm not going to say your name, but I do like you very much. Probably my top number one favorite person she's ever dealt with. But it came at a time where she knew exactly who she was, who she is, why some of the things manifested in her life with her actions. You know, she's done that work and she is clear about what she wants, right? And so then God has placed this like almost like, okay, now you're ready type of situation. And I felt that same way about Terrence. I dealt with a lot of people before Terrence, and I was trying to play this role and fit into square holes when I'm a circle, you know. And when I began to focus on myself and recognize what I wanted, and you've got to be intentional. That's the word I'm looking for. Intentionality. If you know what you want, you can be intentional with how you go about getting it, right? And so I was very intentional. I was very specific when I met Terrence. I told him, I said, if this isn't like a thing you're searching for a wife, I'm not for you. If this is just to play and have fun and play house, I don't want that. And I was very just straightforward with that. And we were fairly young, but you know, Terrence's response was what?
I don't know my exact words.
Not saying your exact words, but that he was looking for that as well.
Oh, okay.
So you being intentional up front is, you don't remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
You was
that.
lying? No, okay.
No, I was lying.
and we're here now, 8 years later. But we were very intentional about that. You know, when you know what you want, you can be intentional. That's what I'm trying to get at. When you know what you want, you can move with a purpose. right? You can't just be aimlessly walking through life or walking through relationship expecting, you don't even know what your goal is. Have some goals, you know what I'm saying? So you can obtain them and be intentional and reach them. That's what I want to say. I talk too much.
I agree with what we all said. That is true. When we got into a relationship, I was also at that point where I was getting to know me. We were really young. Why you look at me like that?
Girl, you must be feeling guilty. That's your second time. Like,
Man.
why you
Hey,
like
he ain't looking no kind of way.
He ain't doing no.
He ain't looking no kind of way.
He had the same face.
I ain't lying.
Getting to know myself. Okay, I was involved with other things, but I was also getting to know myself and who I was. And my point is, you do have to love yourself. You do have to love yourself and value yourself and cherish yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, y'all already know I'm an advocate for therapy. I am in therapy now once a month as like maintenance, no shame at all. So if you feel like you do need to go, to therapy, sometimes we use our friends as therapy. Friends are great. If you have friends that will hold you accountable, that is awesome. But sometimes if we are dealing with some things that we just cannot shake for whatever reason, even me talking to my friends, it still ain't working. I'm still finding myself in these same situations. And maybe we do need to, talk to somebody that can provide like some different kinds of, like strategies or different perspectives, different ways of thinking. And that really is, I do believe, part of doing the work too, and getting to know who you are before you jump into a relationship. Because I do feel like at the end of the day, it is impossible to love somebody else if you don't love yourself. I know that's black and white, but I stick to that. That is impossible, okay, to love somebody if you don't love yourself. So that is, for me, that's my little tidbit. If anybody else has anything to add, I mean.
I think what you said, sis, was perfect. And the last point you made is like when you said, if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. But I think other people may go by and kind of disguise it like, oh, I'm showing all this love, I'm doing all this. But I think it's a little bit of underlying toxicness, like things toxicity. I don't know if that's a word, y'all, but it's about to be one today. But I think it's some underlying things that may happen. And like people who may not know how to love themselves, they may try to use other things to show love. Like I said, the languages that shows you love, but it's not true and genuine love. It's attached to something. It's attached to, if you do this, I do that. But I don't think that is love. And I think it can look like that, again, because of the society and the culture that we live in. It looks like that, but it is not. And I anybody have anything else to say? Because I was about to.
I was just saying, as far as like that fixing, you want to fix somebody. That's that you trying to show love to somebody. But that's toxic because you're even your own personal issues and stuff like that too. But go ahead. That's all I had.
Yeah, but I just wanted to get like the rest of our input because I am about to close it. But I really do feel like this moment, guys, we had a few topics, but we did go off script some. So I really feel like these topics and our off script parts, you may not know what part that is, but please look at this video, share it, like it, love our page. I really believe that this is something that is gonna help heal somebody from past relationships, past families, current relationships. Please look at this and understand, because this isn't just how can I be in a relationship with somebody? How can I be with somebody? It's learning yourself. And I believe that was at the heart of what we wanted to get today. It all starts with you. It all starts with what you want, how you love yourself, how you treat yourself, and having a goal and a purpose to get to somebody who doesn't make you, but complete you. So thank you guys so much for watching this week of TMP. Thank you guys for all the support that you have shown. Please tell somebody about us. We have our loyal few, but please have other people tune in, share this video with them, tell them to like our page, all of that. So as always, you guys, TMP.
Hold it down.
Bye, y'all.